This happened at the start of 2004 when my family was at camp. I was 12 at the time and my best friend had come with us. The camp at that point had been largely uneventful, besides having the usual fun until all of that changed. The showers were structured so their concrete walls didn't go all the way down, and there were these gutters taking the water to the drains outside, so our feet were visible to anyone who went behind the shower block. It backed onto a fence around the back of camp, so no one would go back there unless there was a good reason, like the camp's maintenance staff. Well, during the shower, we could hear this cackling laughter coming from outside the block right behind us, from where I mentioned before. That kind of sounded like a teenage boy. I was confused as to where it was coming from, and I asked my friend if she heard it too. And she said yeah, equally as baffled. Then, shockingly, a head appeared from under the shower in the gap at the bottom, and this teenage boy was staring right up at me, grinning while I stood naked and terrified in the shower. I let out an almighty scream, jumped from the shower, wrapped a towel around myself, and kept screaming until my mother came rushing in. And I managed to explain through my tears what had happened. My mother waited until my friend and I had dressed and went running back with us to the tent and told my dad what happened. Well, he told her to inform the camp staff while he grabbed a kayak and paddle and went around the shower block to find that teenage idiot. Unbelievably, he was still crouched down the back of the wall. After that, we could hear the boy screaming, and he suddenly went sprinting past our tent at the speed of light while my dad was hot on his heels, waving the paddle menacingly until he was chased all the way out of the campgrounds and out of sight. He never returned, and the camp's management said that there had been a few incidents logged where a young guy was looking at girls or women in the shower block. The manager also said it was likely this creep wasn't even staying in the campgrounds, which made it even more terrifying. So I am 24 male and I'm branching out a little bit in the dating world. I just had a date recently and it went well. My second, however, made my intuition scream, "Get out of there." I was out Ubering food late one night, and when I was done, I decided to try and hook up while I was in the city, away from my rural home. My attempts on Grindr for a meet were unsuccessful. I wasn't quite ready to give up yet, so I went to another app and started swiping. The first swipe of the day was the lucky one, or so I had thought. At 4 a.m., I get a few messages that go like this: "Come chill, I'm bored. We can go with the flow and get to know each other." Then I was sent their phone number and home address. It was unnervingly forward, but I thought I'd take a chance and I texted the number. "Hey, are you still up?" "Yeah, come talk and chill." "Have you had coffee for breakfast yet?" I asked. "Nope." "Okay, would you like to go get some?" I don't know, maybe." "It's going to be a 30-minute drive. Would you like to talk over the phone?" I said. "I'm going to shower, so after that I will." I get within 10 minutes of the address and I get a text. "I need 15 more minutes. Why don't you bring something with you?" That's fine so far, but I didn't get to talk to them and get a sense for who they are, so I take my knife and carry it appendix style. I circle around the block to scope and find parking, preferably close in case I need to nope the fuck out of there. Someone had just parked on the street in front of the location and sat in their car. I wait out a bit and they never get out. I then gain the courage to go to the door, mentally prepared for shit to go down. I knock and the door opens. I didn't recognize the person who opened the door, but I told them who I'm here to see, and they let me in, directing me to the door to my left. The guy then stands between me and the exit and says, "Come on, man, what the fuck?" As if on cue, another man enters the building and they go upstairs. I think this was the man who parked in the spot and never got out. There were 3 apartments in said building. Hers, the third, to the left as soon as you enter the main door, then one up some stairs facing the main door. And I didn't pay much mind at this point to where the last one was. I knock on the 3rd apartment to see my date, and she answers right away. "I still need a few more minutes, babe," she said, and shuts the door. I didn't get much more than a glimpse of her face in the process. Once she shut the door and I was in the hall alone, I hear 2 to 3 men's voices speaking to each other inaudibly as music dampened the secret conversation. In that moment, my heart sank to my stomach and It felt like I had to go before anyone noticed I'd left. I walked out and went straight to my car. I drove forward as I watched a man in the street, presumably from that house, walk in my direction to see where I was going. I did a U-turn as there was a no outlet sign, only to find my original path blocked with an idle car, so I took a side street out of there. I pass a few lights and then see the man that never left his car next to me at a red light looking over. I managed to lose him going around big trucks at the wee hours of the morning as I drove to more familiar territory. I don't know what could have happened to me that night, but looking back at it now, I'm glad my instincts kicked in while I still had a chance. I live in an apartment complex that has a shared laundry room in the basement. You get to the basement through a door from the stairwell. On the other side, there's a hallway with cellar compartments on one side. On the other side, there's the laundry room. The hallway is where I first saw a woman about 3 years ago when I moved there. I went to do my laundry one day, and when I stepped into the hallway and waited for the light to come on, I saw a dark figure with long hair slipping into one of the door frames for a split second. I felt like my blood froze, but told myself that I only imagined her from already feeling creeped out. I told my boyfriend about it later that night, and a few weeks later he said he'd seen her too. From then on, I saw her every now and then. The encounters were creepy, but I kind of came to expect them and ignored her, figuring that to be the polite and empathetic response, so to speak, since she didn't want to be seen. I suspected her to have some sort of phobia. Sometimes I'd see her in the hallway, and sometimes she'd already be inside the laundry room, quickly getting behind a wall when I entered. Then I'd hear her leave quietly while I was leaning over my washing machine, even leaving her things behind. Sometimes I wasn't sure if I was alone down there, figuring that she would surely sometimes hide successfully. One time she crouched behind a washer waiting for me to leave. I took that as her getting more comfortable with me. That was the creepiest encounter until one night I found a key in the garage. I wanted to post a note about it at the main entrance of the building and did so on my side. I wanted to post another one at the entrance of the other building that shares the garage. You can get there through the basement, which is also shared. When I entered the hallway, I saw her on the other end, but she quickly closed the door as always, disappearing back into the stairwell of the other building. I was already feeling uneasy, but still walked towards the door, the note in my hand. When I entered the stairwell of the other building and the lights came on slowly, I didn't see her, so I thought she'd gone back inside to her apartment or something. I left the door open, thinking I'd go back in a minute. I went up one set of stairs towards the entrance, and as the stairs made a turn, I looked back down and saw her standing there all of a sudden, inside the hallway I'd just come out of, in complete darkness. She stood behind the door and had closed it just enough so I could see her face. She stared at me through dark sunglasses, a blank expression on her face, and didn't pull back at all this time, didn't even flinch. She must have stood behind the door on the other side as I went through it, and then quickly gotten inside right behind me. We must have been so close to each other for a few seconds. It's the longest I ever had the chance to look at her. I'm not proud of it, but I panicked and ran up the remaining stairs and out of the building. I had to walk to my entrance in the rain wearing only slippers. Since that day, I'm not so sure about her not wanting to be noticed anymore. Kind of feel like if that were the case, it wouldn't happen all the time, right? She'd hear someone coming and already hide or leave, instead of waiting for them to come in and see her for a moment. She also didn't need to watch me at all. She could have shut the door behind her. I mean, she's completely harmless, obviously, but I don't get her, and I can't help but feel vaguely threatened by her. I feel bad about it, but all the crouching, sneaking, hiding, waiting, and watching now has a predatory feel to it. My encounters with this individual, whom I will call Ben, began in November 2024 in school. He was a friend of one of my friends, Tom, and eventually we became part of the same friend group. I've always found Ben to be a bit creepy, which seemed to be the school's population's general view towards him. However, once we began regularly socializing, I began to feel bad for my presumptions. That was until we were added to a WhatsApp group chat. That was when things started to turn. First, it was the mindless, constant images of gore he would send involving torture victims. I don't know if these images were real, but they made me very uncomfortable to the point where I asked him to stop, to which I was told to take a joke and stop being a pussy. This was followed by messages where he stated he had killed a cat, along with sick fantasies involving people I knew. I wasn't sure if Ben was just your average edgelord, which was my other friend's attitude, but something didn't seem right. Then one Saturday, I was alone Christmas shopping in my town, when I noticed Ben standing down the road from me, just staring directly at me. I waved at him awkwardly, to which he just stared before walking casually down a side street for the rest of the trip. Every time I turned, Ben was just standing, just staring at me at a distance. Eventually, I just gave up shopping and went home pissed. I texted him about it, and he just stated he didn't know what I was talking about. Then in school at lunch, Ben and another friend, Jack, convinced me to come with them to the forest behind our school with another friend, Zach. It was stupid, I know, but I was bored and was accompanied anyway. We started getting deeper in, and Ben was becoming weird. He was laughing and kept repeating, "Closer, closer." Eventually, both Zach and I agreed it was creepy and off-putting, and we went back. Ben seemed pissed when he and Jack returned. However, when we asked why they wanted us to go further, he responded he wanted to set a fire and show us. After this, I distanced myself and left the group chat, though I was eventually re-added. While on my hiatus from that group, Ben attacked Tom with a homemade blade. I believe it was a razor from a sharpener in school, resulting in a wound near his wrist. This resulted in Ben being expelled from school. However, no legal action was taken. It's now been a month, and I was re-added to the group chat to find that Ben had been sending graphic photos and talking about his hatred for his family, blaming them for his misfortune. I'm worried he genuinely gives killer vibes, but perhaps I'm just being paranoid. I often wonder about that time in the forest and in the town plaza. Anyway, thanks for listening. Should I be concerned, or am I just overreacting? I sometimes worry that Ben knows where I live and isn't far away.